Working in this industry is my passion. It is my purpose. Jojo, Oliveri, Maverick. Hi, my name's Jo Oliveri, and I am excited to be finally bringing my podcast live. My podcast has been in the making for many, many years, since, prior to the pandemic. But I believe that anything worth doing is worth doing well, and we wanted to be different as well. There's a lot of podcasts out there on property management, all of them great. But I just wanted to do something a little bit different because I am known as being a bit of a maverick. I like to help the industry to think differently. And never ever before has it been so important to actually think property management differently. My background is that I've been in this industry for 30 years in property management, loved every minute of it, but in the last 15 years, I've actually been a coach and consultant in the property management industry, and I've always stretched myself to get out of my own little playground and get out into the wider world and learn. And when I say get out into the wider world, not only do I do a lot of work overseas, I am based in Australia and have a little setup in the US as well. So I spend my time between Australia and the US. But me stretching myself, I've stretched myself into other industries as well. I've made it my business to understand how other industries do things, how they stay relevant, how they stay sustainable and profitable in a world that is changing rapidly. And property management is one of those industries where we're not changing fast enough. To be perfectly honest, we're not changing fast enough. The industry has had a lot of tech thrown at it over the last few years. Probably the last decade is when it really started, rolling in, and over the last 5 years, it's amped up significantly, the technology that's available to us. But what alarms me is the fact that even though we've got all of this technology, we have not increased efficiency, we have not increased productivity. The pressure on profit is bigger than it has ever been before. We've got a lot of companies that are employing offshore or remote staff now. That has not made a difference to their business. It alarms me. It alarms me that we're kind of like in this easy sofa of like, I'm just going to sit in my comfort sofa and say that everyone else is feeling the same stress and strain. Well, you just got to stop that thinking. So my podcast is Jcurve. And Jcurve, it's a bit of a play on my name. A lot of people know me as Jo, Joey, or Jojo. So there's a lot of J's in my name. My real name is Joanne, but if you call me that, I kind of think, what's going on here? But regardless, Jcurve is it's a business term. And it's a trend line that actually shows that you will have initial loss immediately when starting business, followed by this dramatic gain. So it's almost like a tick, but it's a J-curve. We don't see that J-curve in property management business. We see the line that goes up and down and up and down, and when it goes down a lot, with a lot of excuses about, the owners didn't cooperate with us, or the owners just didn't want to, look after their property. The owners were, and they use disparaging terms about the owners. You just should not have excuses like that. Owners will come and go, mostly because they've sold the property, or they've moved into the property. But I kind of think, Owners will not sell their property if they are reaping the rewards and knowing what the rewards are from owning a rental property. And we're not just sharing that. The property managers are not trained to share with property owners that they are actually reaping rewards, both in revenue and asset value. So the whole industry needs to rethink on that. And I'm going to be sharing a lot of thoughts and strategies on my Jcurve podcast. So Jcurve is about the business of property management. I'm going to encourage people to stretch their thinking if they own a property management business. I'm going to encourage business owners to be courageous leaders. I'm going to share with you when I've gone out into the world and learnt how like property management companies work in different parts of the world. I've also gone to different industries. And, those industries have even taken me to Disney training, which was a game changer for me, doing the Disney training, because, like when we go to Disney, we will spend, especially if you come from Australia, to Disney World in the US, either in California or Florida, you can spend tens of thousands of dollars to get there for the privilege of standing in lines to get on a ride for 2 hours or more. I stood in one line for nearly 4 hours because I wanted to be one of the first to ride the Incredibles roller coaster. But, like what I witness, and I spend a lot of time at Disney, is what I witness is everyone is patient. They know that they can either stand in the line or they can go off and watch, what's happening with the line time for that particular ride and choose to come back or choose to, stand in the line and just wait. What I witness in those lines, I've done both. What I witness in those lines is everyone is patient. They're chatty. You even see them bopping to their Disney tunes. They can be standing there in the heat. I've been there on American Independence Day, and you can imagine what the parks are like on Independence Day. Hot. It's in the middle of summer, but the expectations were if you come to Disney then, you probably get to stand in a line. So that could be 2-4 hours of your day in the park standing in a line, but people don't care. They're expecting that. I also see them, they've been in the park all day. They get there when it opens and they leave when it closes, and that can be 12 hours or more in the park. And what I see is cooperation and just this lovely spirit as everyone walks out of the park exhausted, but touched with the magic of Disney, where you just kind of like waddle out like penguins, only to get into another line to get onto the public transport. But no one complains. Yet in property management, if we don't respond immediately, people complain. They take their business away because they weren't responded to immediately. And why is that? Because we didn't set expectations, because we didn't have a policy, because we didn't share what the process was. So there's a lot of things going on in property management that we just seem to be making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So I'm going to share a lot about that. I'm going to share a lot about, policy and process and protocol and practice and how that all comes in together. I'm going to share a lot about technology, building technology stacks and AI, which is critical. We've got to get with the program and replace a lot of what the property managers do with a lot of automated processes and focus their skill in other areas. We've got to have the courage to do that. And we've got to know what that means to hold the team accountable, to guide them to those levels of higher productivity, higher efficiency, and better customer service, better results for the client and the business as well, and for them to be able to love what they do. And a lot of people know that I often say, I love what I do every day. And that's not to say I don't have those days when I just think, oh my goodness, what am I doing? We all question those days. We all have moments, regardless of whatever we do, where we question, why am I doing what I'm doing? And that's important. Reflection time is important. Like my podcast is, as I mentioned, it's going to be 3 different categories. One will be me, just talking about Jcurve, the business of property management, the service of property management, the sort of results that you should expect in property management. What is property management, and how do we, retain staff and retain clients? How do we, shore up our business? Because I always say the only constant in your business is the business owner. Every other industry knows that staff will come and go, but your business needs to be built on a solid platform where your goal is to retain clients. And if you get that right, that's when you start to build those marvelous, those wonderful, those magical cultures where team want to stay. And we're just not doing that right either. So the second session is where we will be showcasing a service partner. And when I say a service partner, it's someone who provides a service to us as business owners, and what that service means to us. How do we understand it? How do we implement it? What does it actually do for our business and the clients that we serve? How do we restructure our teams as a result of this? How do we build all of our service partners together so that, they are representing what our brand values and promises are, and what our culture is. And, there is just so much going on out there that we need to get the advice and knowledge from the people that provide those services. So my goal is to showcase a service partner every week, so you can, 1, have direct access to them to ask the questions, but, 2, gain a really good understanding of why that service is important. Is it something you need? And the thing with, when you build in your tech stacks or, other kind of like services that you'll provide, you've got to have your building blocks to actually introduce, implement, and then make sure that, you continue to use whatever service or product or tech or AI that you've introduced to your business, so that regardless of who you've got in your team, they're using whatever product or tech that you've got in your business. Tech, products, services should not change because team change. And that's what I see, big mistakes in the industry. And then the third category is a little bit fun, but also a little bit insight as well, where I will invite someone from the industry who either owns a property management business or has owned a property management business. And the topic is, if I had my time again, because we all know that, we do things, we make mistakes. And just because someone is doing something, it doesn't mean that we should be doing it too. In saying that, the way that we do day to day in property management is the same, but what we add is our flavour of personalities. So, if we go and get a burger, we know that, if we order the burger from Burger King or McDonald's, we know what to expect. If we go and get a coffee, we get it from Starbucks or our local corner cafe, we know what to expect. Their personality and brand is infused into every bite, every sip. If we go to the theme parks, they're all different, but we know what to expect. In property management, what we do is all the same, but we know what to expect, or we should know what to expect. And that way, if we know what to expect, we actually then have a way of cooperating and working with each other, seeing the value in what we do. And I always say, if you don't show your value, they don't know your value. If you don't share your value, they don't know your value. So you have to show and share in order for a client to actually see your value and value your value. Like in that third category, I want to get people in who are open, transparent, honest, and very, very frank with where they've gone wrong in their business, or something that they knew was great, but, maybe they didn't kind of like follow that path because of a team member or someone that, influenced their decision another way. I always think that, life is about making mistakes. Those mistakes either, take us in a wrong path because we don't listen to what those mistakes are, or they nudge us back onto the right path. I also believe that, like when we share what we did right or wrong, that it helps us to understand better what we can do better, what we might be doing that is like off. It just helps us to kind of like nudge us or like slam us back onto the business pathway that we should be on. So that's what Jcurve is all about. And I am super, super keen. I'm really ready to do this. As some of you may know, or some of you will get to know, I travel a lot. I think my second home is on an aeroplane, and my third home is in a hotel room. And so with all that travel, it has been difficult to commit the time to Jcurve. But, like with technology as it is now and me just being me on Jcurve, I can commit the time and you'll see me. I could be anywhere where I do this. But it doesn't matter because I want to share with you. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you if there's any topics that you want me to touch on. And I will be brutally honest. And when I say brutally honest, it's like I'm not going to, kind of like say that's just wrong. I will say that's wrong, but I'll always come up with why it's wrong and how you can do better, or some thoughts. I have a little process that I introduced several years ago where I am known as a bit of a thought leader because I like to look at things and say, how do we do it better? I'm constantly analysing. You should be in my brain sometimes. The reason why I have baggy eyes is because I don't sleep. When I get an idea, it just doesn't leave my mind until I've thought through and visualised just with crystal clear clarity on, what this thought means and is it something that would contribute to the betterment of the industry and the client experience or the team experience. I'm like a dog with a bone. I'll like go after it. So what I call that is when I have those thoughts that I like to incubate into something that is practical or applicable or implementable. I call it thinkubating. So I like to incubate thoughts and then thinkubate them into something that we can use or maybe kind of like push us into the future. So you'll hear a bit of like far out stuff from me. But if I had recorded this 10 years ago, a lot of the far out stuff that I was saying 10 years ago is actually in the industry now. I know a lot of people look at me and say, oh, like weird Joe. And I've heard those things said about myself. And it's like, I think, you're entitled to your thoughts. But, like you've got to think outside the box and you have to have the courage to incubate those thoughts into plans and strategy and tactics and then be able to implement them. So, if you think what I say is a bit far out, that's okay. Thinkubate them because I might say something that you actually become the instigator of that change in the industry. And that's my goal. My goal is, for this industry, when I started coaching 15 years ago, there was pushback on so many things that have now been accepted. When I started in the industry 30 years ago, I was right at the cusp of when they were introducing property management programs. And for me, I didn't know anything else. So I adopted immediately. But those that were in the industry before me, they failed to adapt. Their pushback just was something I couldn't understand. They were using spreadsheets, and by the way, some property managers still use spreadsheets. I don't know why. But they had everything on a piece of paper. It's like, like, how do we have consistency and continuity if you've got everything in your mind and on your bits of paper and in your diary and all of that? So, that property management program, I mean, they've evolved over those 30 years. Of course, they've got better. But, a lot of those property managers back then, they're not in the industry anymore because they pushed back so much and saw it as, something that was, making their job harder or, not making them as relevant or valuable as they should. And it was their failure to actually adapt. Now, it comes back to the business leader, I'm sorry. You've got to make sure that you are a courageous leader who, when you implement something or introduce something, that you have the strategy and tactics in place to make sure that it sticks and all the team use it. I mean, gosh, if I go through all the other industries that have introduced different things over the years, they wouldn't be around if they let the team dictate and determine, what changes they made. So, 30 years ago was the introduction of the property management program. Then comes some other minor technology. Maintenance was one of the first, inspections, and my gosh, haven't they evolved? Both of them evolved enormously, but the property managers have still kind of like failed to evolve their role as a result of this technology. But, initially there was some pushback on it until they kind of said, this is making my job easier. And that was a bit of what I call Band-Aid technology back then, but it's evolved, beautifully over the years. And then, of course, came virtual assistants or remote workers, where property managers pushed back on that. And then they started getting those remote workers or virtual assistants to do the jobs that they didn't want to do, which is not right. Because they should be focused on admin, and we all know that 60% at least of every task that we do is admin. So that should have been the jobs that were going to the remote or virtual assistants, or as you groom and grow team in your own business, those jobs should have been going to them. However, the virtual assistants, remote workers are getting better, and property managers have adapted them or adapted to them, but still not efficiently and still not as effectively as what we could. So property managers are doing less and less. Their salaries have become more and more, and we've got to see a reverse trend in that. But however, that was like virtual assistants push back on it. Now they love it. And now the other pushback is on workflows. Property managers say they like them, but then they push back. And, I'm going to share a lot of reasons on why workflows are so important. I'm going to share a lot of reasons on why AI is so important, and how you can actually transform your business, your service that you're providing to your clients into something that clients will be very attracted to and see so much value in what you're doing. And in doing that, I'm going to help you to understand how to cut your costs and increase your revenues. So, the thing I like to say is stop listening to your accountants, because your accountants and bookkeepers, they try to get you to cut out the things that are actually kind of like making a difference in your business, but have not been implemented correctly. So you need a proper, like business coach or consultant, or do your own research to understand what you need to invest in terms of technology and other services, because you do need to spend money on things for your business that will make your business greater, more sustainable, more profitable, more efficient, more effective. And accountants and bookkeepers don't know that. They don't, when they give you advice to drop a product or service, I would take that advice very lightly. You need to really drill down on the return on investment. And if you're not getting a return on investment, then why for that particular technology or product or service that you're using? So that's a lot of information, but that's what I'm really looking forward to sharing with you over the term of however long I do these podcasts. And I really do hope it's a long time, because over my 15 years as a coach and consultant and looking at other industries, I've got a lot to share. And I've also made it my business to understand technology and AI and all those things that make us better at what we do, make us more relevant for our clients, because if we don't maintain our relevancy, they won't hire us. They won't engage us to help them with their rental property. And the other thing is, that side of things, the rental property owners, is changing as well. So we're seeing a lot more institutional investors. Those institutional investors, they just want the numbers. They just want to know that things are done. They don't want constant phone calls on, like, oh, we've got a drama at your property, or, we've got this maintenance. We've got to learn how to deal with institutional investors as well. And in dealing with institutional investors, we're going to get better at dealing with mum and dad, or as we say in the US, mom and pop investors, because we've got to train them. And they want to learn. They want to learn how to get better results from their property and enjoy it. We should be removing that stress and hassle. So I'm going to share all those ideas with you. Thanks for joining me today. And I look forward to sharing more with you. But as I said, please reach out. Please let me know things that I can share some thoughts on, or practical solutions with you. Because normally if you've got a challenge or an issue or a problem, let's face it, we have problems, or something that you believe has really been a game changer for you, please share it with me. Together, I think it's up to all of us to protect our industry, to make sure that our industry remains viable and relevant to clients, because with the way that technology is going, and the way that our clients can just go online and just use any technology and manage themselves, we will lose our relevance with them. They won't see the value in us. So let's up the game and join me on Jcurve, and let's together make this industry relevant and just a joy to work in. I'll see you at my next podcast.